This is Jets FM on the OFN as we continue to preview the New York Jets 2021 season with episode 9, the defensive backfield. And we're going to open the show a little bit different today. I thought it was important to take a look back at the history of Coach Robert Saleh, the way that he's handled his defensive backfield from year 1 in San Francisco to year 3. When they had their Super Bowl team. And that's why I want to take a look at my notes and discuss with you what I found out regarding what San Francisco's defense, what Robert Saleh, when he walked in, first day on the job, whatever we want to say, he's at training camp, he's looking over his DB group, he's trying to figure out, all right, how can I get the best out of these guys? What has John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan provided me as far as a defensive backfield? And this is what they gave. Now, I'm only talking about the cornerbacks though, okay? Because the safeties are a little bit more. I mean, we know the Jets with Marcus May and even Joyner has been around a long time. They're set at safety. That's not really what we're talking about here. This is about the cornerbacks specifically. And so when you look at the 2017 snaps for San Francisco and the starts overall for their top 4 cornerbacks, and really they only had about 4 corners that played the majority of snaps, which is normal. And then you had usually have like a 5th guy and a 6th that will play, maybe 15% snaps or 5% snaps, something like that. But you have your primary 4. And in 2017, San Francisco, Robert Saleh's first year as defensive coordinator, his number 1 cornerback in snaps and starts, 16 starts, was Dante Johnson. And Dante Johnson was in his 4th year at that time, and he had only 6 previous starts. Okay, he was a 4th-round pick in 2014. Okay, so not a high draft pick, not a lot of experience, even though he had been in the league 4 years. And like I said, he wound up in that first year leading all cornerbacks in snaps for San Francisco. The number 2 cornerback was Ahkello Witherspoon, who started 9 games and was a rookie 3rd-round draft pick. Rookie, no experience. Number 2 in snaps for San Francisco. Year 1, Robert Saleh. 3rd, 5 starts, Kaijuan Williams, who was a college free agent back in 2014 for Cleveland. And he was in his 3rd year. He had 10 previous starts. That's it. Okay. And then the 4th cornerback with the most snaps, and that would be a former Jet. You remember this guy? Maybe you do. Rashard Robinson. He started 8 games that year. He was a 4th-round pick in 2016. So you got a 3rd-round pick rookie, a 4th-round pick in his 4th year, a 4th-round pick in his 2nd year with 6 previous starts, Robinson, and a college free agent in his 3rd year with 10 prior starts, which is actually the guy with the most experience, the college free agent. Those were his top 4 cornerbacks year 1. So as we break down the cornerbacks here in just a couple of minutes, I thought it was important that we preface this so you understood exactly what he had to deal with then, and then how 2 years later it turned into a Super Bowl defense, okay? Because in 2019, there was one main guy that they added, Richard Sherman. How do we know that the Jets aren't going to plan on, and if they need to, who knows? Maybe the guys, look, the plan is to have these young guys perform so well that within the 2nd and 3rd year, if you're trying to compete for a Super Bowl championship, you don't need to go out and get a Richard Sherman type. But that's what San Francisco needed. They got Richard Sherman. He had a fantastic season, and the rest is history. But the number 2 guy was Kaijuan Williams, okay? The same guy that was there who had just started 10 previous starts before Coach Saleh had ever been there and was in his 3rd year and was a college free agent. The number 3 cornerback in the Super Bowl run was Emanuel Mosley. Now, Emanuel Mosley was in his 2nd year. He was a college free agent. We're going to talk about college free agents and middle to late draft picks as far as the cornerback room on this episode. And the number 4 guy was Witherspoon. And I'm sure, and look, Witherspoon just did not have the career that they had hoped. You would hope when you're getting a cornerback in the 3rd round who is number 2 in snaps and starts in year 1, you would hope by year 3 he's your number 2 corner, and he was actually their number 4 corner. And I just want a quick comparison because we're going to get into these guys here in just a few minutes, but just a quick one. As far as who right now are considered the Jets' top 4 corners, Lasan Austin has 16 career starts, so that's more starts than Saleh had to deal with in his first year. And it was a 6th-round draft pick. Hall is in year 2 with 7 starts and a 5th-round draft pick. Guidry is a college free agent last year with 11 games and 2 starts. Now, the number 4 guy is yet to be known. But I feel pretty confident that the number 4 guy is going to end up better than Rashard Robinson, whoever that is. And that is, I think, important. I really believe it was important for me to let you guys know about that, because we are not going through this Darrelle Revis type room here. And a lot of people, including me, we were like, how did you not draft use your high pick on a corner? How come you didn't spend money in free agency on a corner? How could you get rid of Brian Poole, your slot corner, and not bring him back, even though he's inexpensive? There's a reason. Experience. You got to go into the minds of these guys. What did they have? They succeeded before with less? And the question is yes. And now he's got more. And if he can get more out of this group, especially because he's got a really good front 7, then why go out and overspend for a free agent guy who just doesn't fit? Because you know that Joe Douglas and Saleh and this staff, they have a certain group of guys in mind. They're not just going to bring anybody in. Okay, you have to check the box, check several boxes. And how do we know that and there's only like 4 or 5 corners out there that you would consider, okay, maybe we sign that guy. Maybe those guys don't check any of the boxes that are required to bring them in as free agents. We don't know. It's possible. And then you take a look at the experience here from Saleh in San Francisco in 2017, and you go, oh, all right, this is starting to make a little bit of sense now. So what we're going to do now is kind of go back to start to show the way that we have started the other episodes, and that is by talking about 18-year assistant Tony Oden, who is the senior defensive assistant and cornerback coach. And remember, we told you that Tony Oden is the guy, the first player, the first coach, the first person to give Robert Saleh a job in the NFL. And so I think that is quite interesting. So Tony Oden is he's running the group, but cornerbacks, that's where he's really putting his mind at. Marquand Manuel is the safeties coach. Manuel played the NFL for, I think, 9 years. I think 8 years. And he has been an NFL assistant for 9 years. So, and I remember Manuel when he played. So Manuel will take over safeties, and Oden on the corners. Oden's in charge of the DBs. And these guys have got the toughest assignments than any other coach on the staff because of the youth of the group, especially at corner. Tony's got the toughest job. And that's why I think it's interesting, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you think about Oden being here with Coach Saleh and understanding how important it is that he trusts someone like he trusts Tony Oden and respects, because this is such an inexperienced young group that he's got to mold. And I think he's got, well, I am confident that he's got the right guys running the ship there. So we are going to start our episode by breaking down the corners, outside corners. And that means we're going to go with Lasan Austin and Bryce Hall. Les Austin made 10 starts on the outside in 11 games last season, playing 60% of the snaps. He missed action in 5 games with a neck injury, calf injury, and also had an illness in Week 17. Let's recall what our lad said about Austin in 2019. Austin shows the tools of a solid NFL prospect. He offers value as a tall corner with upside and special team skill. Could be a steal in the late rounds. Austin has proven to be every bit a good tackler that he was in college, that he is now in the pros. And that has translated well in the run game. Hall slid down a few rounds in the 2020 draft because he was returning from ankle surgery that ended his college career. He then did not get to participate in training camp with COVID and failed to make his pro debut until Week 9. Hall ended up with 7 outside starts in 8 games. Let's recall what our lad said specifically about Hall in 2020. Has length with long arms and experience in a variety of techniques. Length and cover skills fit well with a team that primarily plays zone. It's that last part that I think really sticks out to me, in that Hall might fit in pretty well with this new scheme that he's going to be a part of in 2021. In the slot, it appears that Javelin Guidry is going to get the first crack at locking down that position. Guidry played in just 1 game on defense through Week 12, then ended up playing in 5 of the last 6 and collected an incredible 4 forced fumbles in only 171 snaps and graded out favorably in limited action. Out of the 171 snaps on defense, 164 came either in the slot or in the box. Guidry added 90 snaps on special teams, which makes me wonder whether he could be the missing number 2 gunner piece that special teams coordinator Brant Boyer is searching for. And it helps that Guidry was one of the fastest players in the nation before he came out of college. Now we bring in the top 3 draft picks, and quite possibly the one player who might give Javelin Guidry the most competition in the slot. Michael Carter II made 36 starts in 4 years, logging 2,581 snaps. He was a 3-time All-ACC academic and 2020 team captain who lined up in the slot 306 times last season versus 168 outside. The Jets are trying to exploit Carter's 4.3 speed by experimenting with him in the kickoff game. And he does have some experience in that department from back in 2019. Back on the outside is Jason Pinnock and Brandon Eckles. Pinnock is what you would call an analytics defender who really had a good pro day that included a 39.5 vertical, which would have been good for second in the 2020 Combine. Pinnock played outside corner 78% of the time for Pitt and was top 15 in the country in average depth per target last season with 17.7. He also had a passer rating against of 66.7, which was better than Patrick Surtain. And over the last 2 years, he had the second best completion rate at 37% among all outside corners. Eckles, also known as Breezy, was a second-team JC All-American who transferred to D1 ball with Kentucky and started 22 games for the Wildcats. In his first year, he was an SEC academic honor roll and Dean's List in the spring of 2019. Eckles lined up mostly on the outside with 482 snaps versus 99 in the slot and has elite speed and explosion along with great agility. And just like Pinnock, Eckles experienced a really solid pro day, and at the very least is going to offer the Jets' cornerback room some really good additional competition. We wrap up the corners with 3 college free agents, 2 from this year's class and 1 from 2020, Lamar Jackson. Jackson is big, strong, and physical with good speed. He made 36 starts at Nebraska, totaling 27 PDs and 5 interceptions. He played in 13 games with the Jets as a rookie with 6 starts, primarily on the outside with 399 or 452 snaps. Jackson is going to have a hard time making the team because if he does, that means he's going to knock out one of the rookies. Whether he can play in the new zone concepts as well is yet to be seen. Isaiah Dunn was a two-time All-Pac-12 academic who started 4 years and made 26 starts. The Jets staff was so enamored with Dunn that they gave him a full guaranteed contract. And that means that he gets an opportunity to play with his former teammate at Oregon State, Rashed Jr. Dunn had some eye-popping offseason workouts for the Jets. And if you can continue on that projection, you very well might make this team. The Jets claimed Zane Lewis right after he was waived by Arizona last year, and he is still looking to earn his first game check. Lewis started the last 24 games of his college career and ran a 4.440 on his pro day. As an Air Force grad, he belongs with the first class of athletes to graduate under the new Department of Defense policy, allowing Service Academy athletes to delay their service time. Lewis ranked third in the Mountain West Conference with 15 PDs in 2020 and returned both of his career interceptions 99 yards for scores. Moving on to safety, it all starts with Marcus Maye. Maye set career highs in tackles, PDs, and sacks last season and was franchised early this offseason. Maye's abilities allowed the defense to move him around like an important chess piece and play a variety of roles due to his size, speed, and overall skills. Just last season, he played 581 snaps at free safety, 280 in the box, and 167 in the slot. Okay, now, everyone is already beginning to panic, and they certainly will panic after the season if there's talk of Marcus Maye departing in a similar way that Jamal Adams did. And there's going to be a lot of finger pointing at ownership and maybe even Joe Douglas. That's why I thought it was important to set the record straight as far as the way I see it. So let's dive into this. Let's first recall what Maye's agent, Eric Burkhardt, said a few months ago when he went on social media to rant against ownership by complaining that the Jets have so much money to spend under the salary cap, possibly as much as $80 million, yet refuse to take care of their best player. Now, I responded to that a few months back by saying, to me, it kind of looked like it was a Jamal Adams type of move. And how did that work out? Well, Adams was traded. And how's that working out now for Seattle and for Adams? I mean, you read the papers, right? That was an old saying. You surf online, you hear what's going on. So how's that playing out today? Things can change, but how's that playing out so far today? You see, my point is that I don't think that when you're in negotiations, if you're really in honest, sincere negotiations, that you take them to social media. To me, my opinion, I think when you do that, you're desperate. You know, you're trying to cover your own ass. And that's what I think is going on here. I don't think that there was any way possible when I saw that happen. It was like, all right, forget it. There's just no way they're getting a long-term deal done this year. That's for sure. And unless this relationship changes for the better, and they are going to have, look, they're not going to be able to negotiate, unfortunately. Okay. But maybe the time off, tempers will, and maybe as the team shows that, hey, we're actually, maybe Marcus likes it here. This isn't the old staff. This isn't the old way of running things with the organization. And I think that can change completely in what's going on in Marcus Maye's head. And maybe that will be what it will take if Marcus Maye is going to get a long-term deal. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But remember what we talked about the other day. This is a different organization. And they're going to do things their way. And they're not going to be bullied, and they're not going to overpay. So I just hope, people calm down, stop negotiating in social media. When the season's over, I think it's going to be a good season. I think there's going to be a lot of positivity going around here. And I think Marcus Maye is going to see that. And I think he's going to want to come back. And I think whatever it is that they believe that they should be getting from Marcus, oh, sure, another team will overpay him $10 or $20 million. But that's not what the Jets are going to do. They're not going to overpay to overpay. They're going to give him what they believe he's worth, market value. They're not going to be cheap, but they're going to give him what they believe is fair. And if Marcus May is after the money, in that case, then who knows? Maybe that's where he goes. And I'm not, look, hey, more power to him. But he might just say, look, for an additional $5 or $10 million, I'm happy here. I want to stay here. I'm actually glad that this is something that cannot be negotiated until the end of the season, because I don't want to hear about it anymore. But as soon as I saw that a couple of months ago, I knew they weren't going to come up with a long-term deal. Never going to happen when you negotiate the way that his agent did. You see, I just really do believe, and I know it's only been a very short time that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh have been together. But I said this a couple of years ago when Douglas was hired, that I'm all in on Joe Douglas. That I really believe that Joe Douglas was going to turn this franchise around, and there has been nothing until this point that has made me believe that I was wrong. If anything, I'm even more right now with the hiring of Robert Saleh, who was first on my list as soon as we knew that he was going to be available. And they are going to, this new Jet franchise is going to use the draft as the main fuel for their engine. And Douglas is going to use his elite scouting abilities and his staff to cycle through talent each season. And that combined with Robert Saleh and the Jets coaching staff that are going to get the very best out of those players. And I think you're going to have a system that's going to work seamlessly together in churning out a quality, young, inexpensive team with talent until they outperform their financial usefulness. Which, by the way, when that happens, those players will, again, be replaced by countless younger, inexpensive, talented players. Now, will they get it right every time? No. Most of the time, yes. And because they will value the draft over free agency, the salary cap will always be in good shape. So when the time comes to lock down several premier players, including a franchise quarterback, you will have what it takes to get that done financially. And you will be able to add several additional premier talents, maybe like a Marcus May in the prime of their careers. And you know what? You do it all over again as the cycle never ends. Unless, of course, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh aren't here anymore. All right, now let's return to the roster and to the next safety on our list. And the safety who might actually have to take over from Marcus May in 2023 if he gets franchised a second time. And that is Ashton Davis. Davis played 10 games as a rookie with 6 starts until a foot injury ended his season on IR. You might ask, why would I point to Davis as May's eventual replacement? Well, mostly it's due to the variety of ways Davis can be used by his coordinator, like how May gets employed. Davis lined up at free safety 176 times last season, 86 in the box, 78 near the line of scrimmage, and 47 in the slot. Sound familiar? And I'm not concerned at all with some of Davis's struggles last season because he was a rookie who actually started to play better as the rookie campaign progressed. That's what happens. Unfortunately, sort of like P. Ryan, just when you were about to see the improvement that you were looking for from your rookie, Davis got hurt. And Davis was showing that already. He was making plays, but unfortunately he got injured. Look, this is a guy who was a walk-on track star who figured I'm going to take the speed that I have in my track game and I'm going to exploit that to get on this football team. And it took a couple of years until the right coaching staff came along. They had that crazy Jared Goff, spread offense for a couple of years. They couldn't stop anybody. Then Justin Wilcox comes in and it turned around overnight. It was like a 180. And all of a sudden it was a defensive team and Davis was a very big part of that. And you're talking about a guy that just needs a little bit of time. And as soon as he got the right coaching, light turned on, and he became the player that he was in college. And I think you're going to see the same thing at the pro level. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's fast, athletic. He's got outstanding range. The thing I want to see more of, though, because he did it in college, is let's get him on special teams some more. I think we'll see that. Now, I don't know if the injury is going to be a warning of maybe we shouldn't throw him out there on special teams too much, but I think he's just that type of player. I think Brant Boyer, I'm sure, is just doing his best to beg to have Ashton Davis on his special teams unit, if he can get him. I have been a Lamarcus Joyner fan since his glory days at Florida State, and I could not be happier to see him in the green and white. Joyner is a huge addition to the Saleh scheme and will be a utility knife performer who will play the same type of role Jimmy Ward did for Saleh, which helped the 49ers defense become a top unit. And that's because Ward was able to match up with receivers as a free safety, which is a rare trait and something Joyner will be able to do now after playing nickelback for the Raiders. Joyner played 572 of 661 total snaps last season in the slot, even though that is not his best position, and it showed. But the experience still counts. He has elite coverage skills in the deep end, and now has the experience to line up near the line of scrimmage. It's that type of disguise in a Robert Saleh defense that makes it shine the best. All right, that'll do it for the secondary for the 2021 Jets and episode 9. That means we have one more to go, and that's special teams. I've said this a few times. The Jets are going to keep about 9 or 10 DBs. Now, I did not talk about several guys because those guys are going to be primarily special teams players. Yes, their designation will be corner, safety, whatever. You're going to look on the depth chart. You're going to see them in the second or third corner or safety, but they're not going to get many snaps there. It's all about special teams. Not going to be many of those guys, but there will be a few, and we'll talk about them next on episode 10. But as far as the secondary, again, there'll be about 9 or 10. I believe it's going to be 10. But here's the interesting thing, and I'm not going to sit here and try to dissect it because it's still a very new rule, the practice squad rule. Where you can hold on to up to 4 guys a week that can get protected, and then you have the guys that can end up going from the practice squad up to the active roster, like within 90 minutes, and normally that's a quarterback. It's very confusing. So I'm not going to get into all that. That's for another show. But my point is that I think what they're going to do is because it's once again a very deep unit for the Jets, that they're going to juggle and try to hold on to about 12 of these guys, I'd say. I look at the list and I look at, okay, who would be locks? All right, well, you got Austin, Hall, and Guidry. Those are your 3 corner locks. You've got May, Davis, and Joyner. Now remember, so that's 6. Now remember, Davis is already on the PUP, and he, sort of like Vinny Curry, these guys may not play for the first week or two, but that once they come back, as long as they don't get injured again, they're going to be, that's your team. That's why the final 53 isn't really that big of a deal. It's just about maybe more of like your final 56, something like that, which is going to help a couple of these guys in this room. So there you got the 6, okay? And it goes by quickly. Now, and we got to get to the rookies. Carter's not going anywhere. Carter the second. I don't think Pinnock is going anywhere. So that's 8. All right. Now, I do not believe the Jets are going to hold on to any other safeties as safeties. Now, I could see 2 DBs, though, that'll be special teams guys, which we'll talk about in the next episode. That's Hardy and Niesman. I think it's going to be really hard for Hassel and Ballantyne to make the team. Ballantyne, I give no chance because the Jets have so much depth now in the return game. He just doesn't play defense, and there's no way Ballantyne's making this team. I'd be shocked. Maybe he makes it on the practice squad if they can fit him in somehow. And if somebody else steals him, then he gets stolen. They're not going to worry about that. They're not going to protect him. Hassel, he's a special teams guy, but I just don't. I think Niesman's got more experience. Maybe they feel Hassel's, hey, he's younger. Let's keep Hassel instead of Niesman. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but based on experience. So I'll say Hassel or Niesman. I'll lean towards Niesman. And again, Hardy, we know, of course, is a lock. So, but that's why if we're talking about the DBs now, I gave you the 3 top corners and the 3 top safeties is 6. Let's throw Hardy into that as 7, okay? Let's throw Carter into it as 8. I believe Pinnock is going to make the team as 9. And then you have Eckles and Dunn. Okay, now Dunn is getting all the press clippings in March. In May. But this is when it really counts. I think when you pay someone like Dunn, though, the Jets are going to try to hold on to him, whether he's protected in practice squad or whether he makes the final team. I think he'd have to really perform poorly. And I don't, I'd be surprised if that happens. So that's why I think Dunn will make it and Eckles will make it. So if you're asking me, who do I think is going to not only make the final roster out of these DBs, but will be in some way protected in the practice squad? Austin Hall, Guidry, Pinnock, Carter, Dunn, Eckles, May, Davis, Joyner, Hardy. That's 11. And then you have the last guys left are Lamar Jackson, and Zane Lewis. I told you Ballantyne's not making the team. It'll be Hassel or Niesman. So it really comes down to Lewis and Jackson. And I could definitely see the Jets trying to figure out a way to keep both these guys on. I can see Zane Lewis being the unprotected guy that, hey, just didn't have any room for you. Who knows? Maybe Zane Lewis performs so well as special teams that he knocks Niesman and Hassel out. Okay, so who knows? But I think they're going to try to figure out a way to protect Lamar Jackson if they can. Because he's a talented kid. He's got the length. He's got the size. He's a guy that they want to work with. I don't know whether or not he fits the scheme. So if he gets cut, we know he doesn't. But that's going to be a list that is going to be very young, especially a corner. But I think you're going to see them figuring out a way to keep all these guys, which is again, most of them, which is why, or at least most of the ones I've talked about on this show, which is why they haven't gone out and signed any veterans. Okay, because if you sign a veteran or two, you got to knock a couple of these guys off the team. And I do not think the Jets want to do that. I think they look at these guys, they like what they see. They're not winning a Super Bowl in 21. Okay? It's not going to happen. And they're not going anywhere by 2022. They're not getting fired. So they know what they're doing. And they're going to mold these young, talented DBs the best that they can. Sort of like what we heard the other day with the quarterbacks. I talked about the quarterbacks in episode 1 or episode 2. So that was about a week ago before he said all this about the veterans with the Wilson being holed out and, we're not going to go out and sign a veteran. And we talked on the episode about that possibility. So I'm not surprised about that. Look at remember we opened this show talking about his experience in San Francisco and why it's important to take a look at what he did there to this secondary room, this DB room. Same thing at quarterbacks. May not be his thing. He's a defensive guy. He's not a quarterback guy, but he knows what's going on. He sees what's happening. He saw the injuries. Yes. Did they win a lot of games? No, but they played some young guys and that left an impression on Robert Saleh that, hey, you know what? Why should I go out and remember we talked about that list? Why should I go and get a Jeff Driscoll or if he gets cut or Brian Hoyer if he gets cut? Why do I bring a guy like that in? How do we know that they're going to win just because they're here? And what we're doing is we're stunting the growth of some young quarterbacks that might be able to develop under our own house. So let's keep those young guys that we spent all of this time teaching. And unless we get blown away, like let's say Nick Foles gets cut, that's different. But that's also why you don't invest, you want a 5th-round draft pick for Nick Foles? Or we got to pay Nick Foles this? No. For what? So we go from a 5-win team to a 7-win team? Kills our draft allotment, too. We're not going to do that. We're not building a championship team this season. Okay? This is something to talk about in 2022 and 2023. And I know I'm going off on quarterbacks now, but the point is the same thing in the cornerback room. Richard Sherman wasn't brought in until whatever. I don't even remember if he was brought in 18 or 19, but he wasn't brought in until they made that run. He wasn't there first year. That is what we're going to see, I am convinced, this time around as well. Unless something just falls on their lap, inexpensive, doesn't cost them a draft pick. Hey, some veteran just got cut, and it's look how easy this is going to be for us to pick this guy up and put him on our team. Okay, maybe. But that also means, once again, somebody's going to have to be let go. And we'll find out if the Jets feel comfortable enough doing that. I don't think that's going to happen, but we're early in the process. Okay, that'll wrap it up for episode 9, the defensive backfield. We're going to wrap it all up with episode 10. And, of course, that means it's the special teams unit with Brant Boyer. So can't wait to do that. So we could also move on to bigger and better things around these parts. And I hope you've been with us all the way through here on Jets FM, on AOFN, as we preview the New York Jets 2021 season. We'll see you next time.